We just recently had the NBA draft, the 2017 NBA draft.
Did Kevin get picked up?
No, Kevin
He's
did
still
not
waiting.
get picked.
He's still waiting for that call.
He will be
I
waiting.
dressed the part though, right?
You should not have. He looked like 1969 draft pick. I will say, in my opinion, this was one of the an exciting draft that we've had in a couple years. It was a deep draft. Some characters. We talking to you, LeVar. With all the Paul George possible trade scenarios, it didn't disappoint this year. I don't think it did. And with every draft, there are winners and losers. So let's start the show. Who do we think was the biggest winner? Throw it out to you, Les.
I actually feel like the 76ers were the biggest winner now because looking at their squad, the one thing was missing was a scorer, a flat-out person who could put it in the hole, and they got that now. I mean, they traded for it, but they got it now.
Does anybody disagree with Les?
I can't disagree, but I can't agree completely. If that makes sense, because I think Sacramento, like Kevin alluded to, did very well getting Fox, Jackson,
Collins.
Yeah, didn't they get Frank Mason and Giles? Or?
They got Harry Giles, and then they got Frank Mason in the second round. Yeah. I mean, they did a really good job, and they're gonna be young for a little while, but a lot of fun. If Harry Giles, if he can get with the pro rehab and get back.
Hey, I suggest everybody go look at Harry Giles' high school highlights.
They're ridiculous.
He was real.
He was real.
Them injuries, boy.
Woo. Yeah.
Well, injuries will kill a lot of careers.
Penny Hardaway.
It's not the same injury as a
no. I was just
ACL like 3 times in both knees.
Both knees.
So it's kind of a bad injury to have, but ACLs have come a long way. So really rooting for him. But even if for whatever reason it doesn't pan out, they got big guys already. Willie Cauley-Stein, Skal Labissiere. So
say that 5 times.
Skal Labissiere. So it's about, they got Justin Jackson for the wing. They obviously have Fox as their point guard. And then Frank Mason. Listen, that Frank Mason is a great player for them. They're solid in the backcourt.
Do they keep their starting point guard? What's his name?
Collison is a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they're not going to try.
They're
and
not.
sign
No.
him.
This is a complete youth. This is a complete youth movement,
Get
and
the ball
it makes
to Fox
sense.
and Mason and let them run.
Push the
Kev.
button.
Yep.
Yeah, I also thought Sacramento as well. Of course, the pieces that you guys mentioned that they draft, but they also have Buddy Hield on that roster too.
Right.
Who is a young piece, and if they don't develop all of that talent, they definitely got the pieces to trade. So I'll go with the Kings.
Yeah. I thought, as I alluded to in my confirmation bias, the Golden State Warriors, I mean, you talk about the rich getting richer. If there was a prototype of a player that they did not have, it's what Jordan Bell is going to bring to them. And for them to get him in the second round, which, by the way, we may look back in 3 to 5 years at this second round, and it may be one of the best second rounds ever. There was quality talent that was taken all throughout that second round.
As we were watching, we kept watching players drop farther and farther that were talented.
You're talking about, you got Frank Jackson, Frank Mason we've talked about, Ivan Rabb, Jonah Bolden, Sindarius. The Clippers. I hate the Clippers, obviously.
Dev is a fan of Sindarius.
He's nice. I'm with you. He's a hooper. His body is ugly. His beard is ridiculous. But the dude can hoop. And Jawan Evans, the point guard at Oklahoma State, the Clippers, they, for not having any picks, they did make some stuff happen, and depth is a thing for them. But there's a lot of Tyler Dorsey going to Atlanta. You got Dylan Brooks, another Oregon player, went to Memphis.
So you pretty much answered your question on who is the second round pick who has the best chance to succeed.
It's a lot of them.
But who do you think it's my man in Golden State?
That's actually who I choose.
Yeah, I think Jordan Bell. I think it's a ready-made. They need him.
Have a better situation than that.
Just add water. I picked him.
Just add water. Yeah.
But I think Williams Goss for the Jazz. I think that's a good environment.
Particularly if George Hill leaves, absolutely, he could step in and be a starter for them.
George Hill don't have to leave. He can just kind of go away.
Hey, somebody gonna pay that man money, big money.
George Hill.
George Hill.
Watch.
They always do.
Well, who? But as we talked about before, the point.
Say that again, Kev.
Now I said Greg Popovich may pay George Hill. He was sad to see him go.
Yeah.
Until he got Kawhi.
Right. Doesn't mean he wouldn't take him back though.
Right.
Right.
And if he can't get Chris Paul, I want to say that like comparing them as players, but Popovich likes him. He knows the system.
It's not a bad fallback option, and that would be some hoodwink type shit that the player you traded for, you're able to turn around and get him, plus get the guy who's going to take you. Exactly.
That was some Yankees of roll just chatting and shit.
Yeah.
And another guy that was drafted in the second round, I think is noteworthy. I don't know if he'll have a great impact, but Ivan Robb, who was picked up by Memphis.
Yep.
He was a lottery pick out of Cal last year, but decided to stay in school. You saw how that impacted his draft pick. He went from maybe a top 5 to second round, but he was a solid player.
He's not fashionable. His problem is he's got a lot of talent. He's not fashionable in today's NBA because he's more of a throwback player.
Let me ask a question, though. That kind of is indicative of the the scouting in the NBA. How can 1 year you go from a first rounder to a second rounder without any major injuries? Because you actually get to see somebody
you
play.
get exposed. Yep.
So then why are people reaching on these talents?
Potential.
It's always about potential.
It's always about
with certain
potential.
things.
And then you go into that second or third year and you're not improving, and it's like, well, there's not the potential anymore. So.
It's also taste. I mean, year to year, sometimes the teams that are at the top of the lottery board, their needs change from year to year. And so what may have been a need for a team 1 year, it changes, going into the second year. To your point though, it's a legitimate question to ask, but I definitely know with big men, there's a certain type of big man that is fashionable and that is
especially in today's NBA.
Exactly, that's in demand in today's NBA. And it doesn't mean that you can't. To your point though, Devin, there's nothing wrong with zigging when everyone else is zagging. Actually is that what you paper or Popovich? The Patriots do it in the NFL. And I'm waiting for a team actually to do it.
Actually, Bob Myers alluded to it after their first championship. They said everybody's going small, watch us go big. They just haven't really done it as much as I thought they were going to do.
Well, they got a certain free agent that probably delayed those plans.
Right.
What would happen if there was a big man out there who was traditional, who could put his back to the basket and could dominate? Like, would people shy away from that? Like, that's easy money.
If someone could dominate like that, no. But where are they?
You'd have to the big thing is this though, they aren't being cultivated. The other thing is pace of play matters. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to commit to a big guy that can dominate, it means that you have to play slower because now you're playing through this guy.
What if it's a David Robinson type when you don't have to play slower?
Got to be
those type of guys.
You're about to say those type of guys come around once in a generation.
Hey, it's for the sake of argument.
I mean, If you got a David Robinson, let me know.
We talked about the winners, but if there's winners, there's always losers.
Oh.
So who do we think is the biggest loser in the draft, Kenyon?
The biggest loser? I think it's the Boston Celtics. And putting my Laker bias aside,
I can't. Shit. You had us until you said
Kevin, give me 15 seconds. I give you 15 seconds to put my bias aside.
While he's doing that, I think Chicago.
That's who I agree with.
I actually have the Pacers being the biggest loser because they know they're losing Paul George. But instead of trading them and getting draft picks this year where they actually are able to choose the player they want.
The Pacers are not done yet, though.
They can't be.
I mean, like, if that 3-team trade the Cavs are trying to put together comes through, they'll be all right.
They'd be a lot better off than Chicago. They lost that.
They traded their superstar for Flotsam and Jetsam. Because Zach LaVine is not it. He's not it. It goes back to his college days when he wanted to be a point guard. And they were like, no, you are not a point guard. And that's why he was mad at the coach. Like, he's not it.
I think Boston had the pieces to make a splash and to make a big deal. And they essentially punted on that.
The hoarder.
Yeah, he punted on that. That's why I think they're a loser. The thing about Chicago is if you're going to, when we talked about it, I think maybe not the last show, the show before, but the state of the NBA today is this. If you're not close to tapping into something, like if your young guys aren't able to break through, then you might as well tear it down and rebuild. And that's essentially what Chicago's doing.
I understand the tearing it down and rebuilding. I just think they could have got more than what they got for Butler.
Oh, no.
Clearly they like Seven. They like Chris Dunn. They wanted Chris Dunn last year, and Zach LaVine, granted he tore his ACL, but is a pretty good young player. I mean, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Obviously, we'll look back in 3 to 5 years and see what happens with Chris Dunn and what happens with Lauri Markkanen. But,
Is this Chris Dunn's second or third year?
This is second year.
Second year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go big picture. I'm on the same page as you guys, but I thought the entire Eastern Conference lost except for the Celtics. Everybody went with the youth movement, which is great. As Les pointed out, the 76ers got what they needed, but young teams usually don't win in this league. Even that 15 Golden State team, their finals MVP was Andre Iguodala. You need some type of veteran presence to help that young talent grow. And I don't think any team in the Eastern Conference got significantly better as opposed to the Bulls letting Jimmy Butler go to the Western Conference. The Timberwolves are getting better. The Lakers drafted the one piece they needed to start getting over the hump. So,
man, I'm a Laker fan, but that was not the one piece we needed.
He said to start getting over the hump.
Okay.
He said to start getting over the hump.
Okay.
Start.
Hey, Omar. Kevin throwing us a bone, man.
Hey,
Take
man,
it.
I'm gonna keep it 100. We need a couple more at the very least. Just saying. But and the thing is, the Bulls thing I understand. Not the Bulls. The Boston thing I understand. It also changes if they sign Gordon Hayward. The narrative starts to change if they can start. If they sign Gordon Hayward, he may be more incentivized to trade for Paul George.
Yeah, I mean, but now you're just making a crowded roster even more crowded. They have players, like 3 or 4 players that they've drafted, who they have the draft rights to, that can't even come over because they don't have room on the bench.
Right.
And Gordon Hayward is yet another wing player.
They have pieces, though, and for me,
They need a big player.
Right.
They've been having pieces.
I like to quote the great Jafar and say the golden rule: the man who has the gold makes the rules, and they have all the gold right now. So, I mean, they could definitely.
But he's
fuck it
acting
off.
like Scrooge McDuck from DuckTales. Like he's just swimming through all the picks.
Wow.
Like
We on a
Disney
run right now. Oh shit!
But right, they could definitely
Get your
fuck it
kids
up.
around the TV screen and the radio.